opening quotation. Okay. Time starts now. Wouldn't it be wonderful to, just for a moment, be somebody completely different? Shed this old, gangly husk here and enter a completely new body with a new life. I could be the richest man of the world, or someone who's more reserved and laid back and is simply enjoying a life of privacy. But whatever the case, a lot of the time, we're not very satisfied with ourselves. So sometimes we'll want to imagine ourselves living as somebody else. And that brings us to today's quotation from a Scottish singer, Susan Boyle. When you sing, you put on a persona. And what this quotation is saying is that when you can step onto the stage, when you put yourself out there into the world, you change yourself a little bit. You put on a persona as in you adopt a different character or a different personality. And we'll see today why this quotation is certainly correct, that we love to act because we want to put on a different kind of character, partially because we don't love ourselves quite as much as we should. So today we'll look at this through two levels of analysis. For one, we'll examine exactly why we don't love ourselves, looking at the innate evil of humanity, followed by exactly how do we put on these other personas. Now, to start us off, why is it that we don't love ourselves the way we should? Now, the argument here is that we recognize that there is an innate evil in all of us. And there are several psychological studies that will point to this. One such example is Stanley Milgram's famous experiment in which participants will deliver electric shocks to a test taker when they get an answer incorrect. And as they slowly increment higher voltages onto the test taker, they'll become a bit more hesitant as they reach lethal levels. But the researcher will tell the participant, no, you must keep increasing the voltage for the sake of the experiment. And almost 2/3 of participants actually did raise this voltage to lethal levels. Now, they weren't actually shocking the test taker, but participants believed that they were. And this points to the idea that humans will value obeying authority over having virtue. And we don't like this very much, do we? We want to believe that we would refuse to deliver that lethal shock, but would we really? Another situation where we would project ourselves into it and see kind of an ideal self, but we really can't examine very well what we would actually do, is the Stanford Prison Study. This is a simulation in which participants are either guards or prisoners. And just after 2 weeks of simply being in this new situation and having this new role, the guards began to treat the prisoners completely inhumanely. And we would love to think, oh, that wouldn't be me. I would treat the prisoners with kindness. Would you actually? We wish that we would be kind and loving in these situations, but we understand that we have an innate evil as humans. And when we understand that, it can be much more difficult to love ourselves. And that is why it can be so appealing to adopt personas as we act, as we sing. Now, one example of an occasion where we do this, where we want to change our character on account of not feeling quite good enough, is this principle of code switching. Now, you probably noticed as you switch between your friend groups, you will change your personality slightly. You will communicate differently. You'll speak with your boss differently than you would with your child, for example. We do this so naturally as humans. And that is an example of adopting a different character. Now, another example where this happens is back in biblical times. The religious leaders of Jesus' time, Jesus would call them hypocrites, which literally translates to actors. They would put on this face of religious righteousness, but they were really evil in their hearts, and they understood this, but still wanted to have that right face. So in conclusion, we adopt personas as we sing because we see the limitations in ourselves, the innate evil that occurs within us. And as we do this, we'll find that we're really not being who we truly can be. Thank you.